And good morning, everybody. Welcome. Hot Takes Goodman and Haertl. Welcome back to Denver, my friend. I see the familiar artwork behind you.
Yeah. Quite an adventure getting back yesterday. Yeah. The obviously the weather wreaked a little havoc with our flight plan. We ended up diverting to Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Did you know that Scottsbluff was the 14th largest city in the state of Nebraska? Can you name 5 other cities in the state of Nebraska?
I could try. You got Omaha. You
Yeah.
got Lincoln.
Yeah, those are the 2 good ones.
You got Kearney. And I think that's where I stop.
Beatrice. I remember Beatrice because I played baseball in there one summer. Right. But that's about it. Then we get back and it's like, DIA again. And then we take the train.
Yep.
And we get to within 2 stops of our station.
Oh, boy.
Train malfunction on the track ahead of us.
Wow.
We at the Peoria station then are on our own, which, of course, in the day and the age of the Uber or Lyft or whatever you use is no big deal. But we finally got in about 2.5 hours later than we thought we would. But you know how that goes. It's just kind of how it works. But good to be back. Thank you.
Good. Real quick, I'll just throw this out there. Nothing is more rich and nothing is more over the top than New York media hyperbole.
Yes.
Okay. So Pacers won last night. Tyrese Halliburton was fantastic.
Wow.
Unbelievable performance. 32 points, 15 assists, 12 rebounds, 4 steals, no turnovers. To which they said on the 6 a.m. ESPN show this morning, it is one of the greatest playoff performances in playoff history. Is that right? Well, I think Nikola Jokic would like a word.
Yes.
In a couple of his games he had in 2023, in which, I don't know, he scored 34 points, 21 rebounds, 14 assists on 70% shooting. Halliburton, by the way, was under 50%.
Right.
It is impressive that he didn't have any turnovers with all those assists. I'm with you. I'll take Jokic's line score with the 70% shooting. Then you have a game against the Suns in the playoffs, 30 points, 17 rebounds, 17 assists, and 58% shooting. But it's one of the greatest playoff performances of all time. Why? Because it came against the Knicks.
Absolutely. And that's the world that we've always lived in, the hyperbole. Yeah, absolutely. The hot takes, right, of the New York media. And I've always said, and I really mean this, the most provincial people that I have ever known in this business are those from New York, because they believe, and in their own little world, it's fine with me. I don't care. They can believe whatever they want. That the sun rises over the Hudson and sets on the east or whatever, but it's silly. Tremendous, great game from Halliburton. No question about it. Let's just be careful about hyperbole. I'm with you.
With that, I want to tell you about the best sports bar in town, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill. They have all the playoff games. They have all the soccer games pretty much that you want to watch. They have rugby. They also have UFC, along with all of the major sports. You want to watch the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, go to the Sportsbook Bar and Grill. Outstanding in menu. Start off with the cheese curds, Philly cheesesteak egg rolls are great. So many great burgers, 12 of them on the menu. I mean, you couldn't go to I don't know if many burger places have 12 burgers on the menu. And then you have great wings, outstanding sauces. It is a sports bar that was started by sports fans. So they took care of every detail. Sportsbook Bar and Grill. You can find them in the DTC, Highlands Ranch, and coming soon to Parker. Time now for The Lead.
The Lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Porter Jr. was the only guy who really had an injury throughout the playoffs. Then Aaron Gordon gets injured. And now Russell Westbrook announced yesterday that he was having surgery on his right hand, for a pair of torn ligaments in that hand. Knowing this, throwing in MPJ, just how impressive were the Nuggets pushing OKC to 7 games?
Well, when you stop to consider that Minnesota, a team that has given the Nuggets more than their fair share of trouble, are hanging on by their entrails going into Game 5 in Oklahoma City tonight. I guess by that comparison, it's pretty impressive. I don't know, Eric.
It's about matchups, Bruce.
Yeah. Well, did you win?
No one can convince me that the Timberwolves aren't a really difficult matchup.
Totally. Yeah. But not as difficult, apparently, for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I think are about ready to slam through that front door and be in their first ever NBA Finals after tonight. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I guess it is even more. Is it even more impressive that Nikola Jokic can essentially carry a team the way that he carried them? Right. And guys had different contributions. I'm not saying that selfishly or totally giving all the credit to Jokic, but yeah, it's pretty remarkable that they took Oklahoma City to a Game 7.
Okay, do you think that Kroenke is taking into account the injuries to MPJ, Westbrook, and Gordon late in the playoffs as the reason why they don't need to make major moves? Because he might be thinking, hey, listen, all these guys are healthy, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Do you think that is playing in to his thought process of potentially hiring a GM from within and letting the young guys on the bench marinate a little bit more before he blows that thing up?
No, I don't. And the reason I don't is because I've really heard what he has said. I don't think it was GM speak. I think he understands the limitations that this roster has. I think that he understands that they have to supplement the roster. He said very clearly that he heard Nikola Jokic loud and clear after Game 7 in Oklahoma City about, no, we're not a championship team right now. We had our chances. We didn't do it. It appears that these other teams, and he went into Indiana, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, are all playing with much better depth, and those are difference makers. Josh Kroenke, I told you this, I think last week or the week before, whenever we were chatting about it, impresses me more and more the more I'm around him.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy who has pretty solid, strong basketball knowledge. I mean, you don't tutor under Norm Stewart for 4 years at the University of Missouri and not figure out some things. You get smarter as a basketball guy, and he's done it at the professional level for a while. I think that he very much understands what he needs to try to do with the limitations, obviously, that he has, and how much they actually limit him. That remains to be seen.
I'll say this about Josh Kroenke, and I honestly say the same thing about Greg Penner as well, and Kerry Penner as well. They are everymen, meaning you could take them to the Sturgis bike rally and they'd fit in. Yeah. You can take them to a black tie affair and they would fit in. You can take them to a barn dance, a hoedown, the White House, and honestly, you wouldn't know who they are. Yeah. And what do I mean by that? There's no air about them at all. That's what is so impressive about what we have here in Denver with the Penners and certainly with Josh Kroenke. Stan is not an everyman. It's not to say that he comes across as being arrogant and wealthy and rich. I'm not suggesting that at all. He just doesn't have an effusive enough type of personality where he can fit in anywhere. And Dick Monfort certainly doesn't. Even though, ironically, he is from a small town.
Yeah. I think that's right on target. I really do. I like the perspective a great deal. And I think that it is already helping tremendously the Broncos and the path that they're on. And I think that the Nuggets are still close enough. I mean, on one hand, we're talking about making adjustments, but are they major adjustments? Well, they're major in terms of they've got to have more depth, period. So there is a major need, but can you attain that through maybe not quite as major moves to get it? And that's, I think, where the Nuggets are at this particular point. Can they do that? Free agency starts in about a month, I think. It's right. In fact, I think it's a month from Friday or, Saturday maybe. So I don't know how active the Nuggets will be or won't be. I don't know if they're planning to go into the second apron. You and I have talked about that a lot.
Well, let me bring something up. Okay?
Sure.
I talked to somebody about the aprons who are much smarter than me. The Nuggets can't go on a spending binge, even if they want to go into the second apron. The most they can spend on somebody is about $5.5 million.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not like they can go out and spend 20 if they feel like it. And fine, they're in the second apron. That it restricts you on how much you can spend as well. The only thing that could help the Nuggets is this. There's going to be a lot of free agents out there who are going to be very disappointed that teams are pretty tapped out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
So guys are going to have to take less. Maybe, just maybe, Bruce Brown will have to take really less because he has no interest in taking $5.5 million, although his best season ever was with the Nuggets. I think he likes playing here. I think he likes playing with Jokic and everybody else. I don't know if the market will drive him down to 5.5, but that is a possibility because he's 29. There are younger options, in theory, better options than Bruce Brown for other teams. But I don't think those guys are going to get paid what they think they're going to be paid. So that could help the Nuggets. That's probably the only thing that can help them in free agency.
Well, I mean, that's a crack of light, though, isn't it? I mean, maybe that's where the new collective bargaining agreement that has so stifled the Nuggets can turn back around and maybe be helpful to them in some shape or fashion. Who knows? I think that they're very aware of what they need to do. Now, the question is, how do they choose to do it, and who do they choose to do it with? What do the answers from the way they're apprising the situation look like in terms of personnel? I think it's going to be very interesting because it's the difference between the Nuggets still being a team at the end of May and into June that we can be talking about still from a competitive standpoint, or a team that's going to be out in the first or the second round. I mean, like I said, everything changes once you've won a championship and you are perceived to be still in that championship window. I mean, you know, the Nuggets themselves were saying this, Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon, and it's about winning championships now. They've done it once. So getting to a game 7 against the perceived or presumptive NBA Western Conference champion, well, that's a nice little story, but it doesn't get it done.
Okay, I'm going to ask you something that on its surface is going to seem foolish. That if I said this in front of a bunch of Nuggets fans, they would laugh me out of the room. But as I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I was talking to them about this, I said, before you laugh at me, my point is you can make an argument. I'm not saying the argument is true, but sadly, you can make an argument. With that, if you are the Nuggets, which contract, in theory, are you more desperate to get rid of? Michael Porter Jr.'s contract, that is 2 years left at roughly $80 million, or Jamal Murray's contract, that is 4 years left and is worth over $200 million.
Well, then it becomes a question of how much do you believe that Jamal Murray is part of the answer instead of part of the problem? I think you have to judge both of those guys as extended value.
Yep.
And then obviously what kind of money it could free up. Now, this is in a perfect world, and I know that you're presenting it as such,
Of course.
that there is a trade option out there, that there is a path to
if you're another
jettison.
team, if you're another team and you can use both positions, which guy would you rather have?
I think it's harder to replace Jamal Murray than it is to replace Michael Porter Jr. Even though you're on the hook for 4 years at a more accelerated rate for Jamal Murray than you are for the 2 years of Michael Porter Jr. I think I'd probably hold on to Jamal Murray and try to move Michael Porter Jr. That's just me taking that fastball right off the plate and trying to put it in play.
Right now, Jamal Murray is who he is.
Yes.
He's not getting that much better. He's just not. So are you happy? You're not happy, but is it really worth paying a guy about $52-53 million a year to give you in this year's playoffs? And I understand he was sick for a couple of games. 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal. He shot 44% from the field and 35% from 3.
Yeah.
How's that sound? Now, Michael Porter Jr., we still had the excuse of being injured. I will tell you this, though. If you said to people who's played more games over the last 2 years, Murray or MPJ, it's been MPJ by almost a considerable margin.
Yeah, by a far amount. Jamal Murray has.
He's not getting any better. And let me cut you off. I would rather have MPJ's contract, and here's the reason why. I only have 2 years to go.
Yeah.
Murray, I'm getting what I'm getting for the next 4, and it's going to decimate my pay.
The biggest problem with Jamal Murray is how do you replace him? If you are of a mind that he's an average point guard in the NBA, if you're of that mind, I'm not. I think he's better than average.
Yep.
I really do. I start thinking in terms of baseball and wins above replacement when you start thinking about how you're going to get a Jamal Murray in there. And I realize he hasn't been an all-star. I'm not sure how much that really means, but be that as it may, he's kind of that fringe guy. But he's difficult to replace in my way of thinking.
Yeah.
But I understand the argument for MPJ. I don't think it would be bad for either of their contracts to go away, to be really honest. And of course, a lot of it has to do with Nikola Jokic. Where is Nikola Jokic at this particular point on that? Is it non-negotiable that Jamal Murray continues to be his wingman? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I just don't know. So, but it's a good question moving forward, and it's one that I don't know if they're going to be burdened by that because I think that they'll stick with Jamal Murray. I do think that feelers have already been put out on Michael Porter Jr. And I do think that they will try to move him.
Of course they will. They're not going to. Of course they're going to try and move him, but they're not going to. Right? I know they're going to make the.
I don't think they'll try to move Jamal Murray.
Okay, they might not be able to. Here, I don't. Okay, I know this guy you like very much, and I am not suggesting for a minute that this guy is better than Jamal Murray. I'm not, but he's really not that far behind, in my opinion. To be perfectly honest, how do you replace Jamal Murray? I think you can find plenty of guys that you can pay over $50 million a year to, okay, that are better than Jamal Murray, right? Or can you find a guy at, say, $40 million and find another guy at 10? I bet you can do that. So I'll give you my guy. He is not Jamal Murray. I certainly understand that. But knowing I honestly do not believe he is going to make more this season than this. I don't believe he's going to make more this upcoming season than he has in his current contract. So let me just state that for the record. I think Fred VanVleet is going to be making under around $40 million this year. This upcoming season, he's going to be a free agent because I don't think the Rockets are going to pick up his club option.
He's a tier 1 guy, so you're gonna have to. He's better than Jamal Murray, in my opinion.
Wow.
Period.
Well, defensively he is.
Oh, defensively, there's no comparison.
And he's a champion too.
He's a champion. He's a clutch shooter.
Yeah.
He is a guy that is very, and I'm not saying Jamal Murray isn't, but a guy that's very team oriented, and is very willing to be a piece, to be part of this is just, it's a little unfair because I have long experience with Fred VanVleet.
I know you do.
And he doesn't have a bigger fan than me. He does not have a bigger fan.
Hold on. Right. Let me pour a bucket of water on your fandom here. He averaged 14 points a game. He had 5 to 6 assists a game, 3.5 rebounds a game. He shot 35% from three-point range, and his field goal shooting percentage this past season was 38%. Yeah. Jamal Murray is a better player.
Okay.
Period. I mean,
well, then you're answering your own question, because if you're talking about taking Jamal Murray over a Fred VanVleet, which I totally respect, then why are we having a conversation about getting rid of his contract?
Because I would be happier having Fred VanVleet at $38 million and then having another $10, $12 million to fill out the bench. That to me is worth it over having Jamal Murray, because I think anybody who plays with Jokic is going to get better. Just like I believe anybody who plays on the power play with McKinnon and McCarr is going to score goals.
Well, yeah, that would be nice to think. It didn't work out that way, unfortunately.
Except in the playoffs.
Right? I mean, my God, that was still head shaking. I hear you. I mean, they've got some directions that they can go. Unloading a $209 million contract or whatever it is, 206, that hasn't really even kicked in yet, is going to be quite a challenge, I would say, at this point.
Coming up after the break, Demaryius Thomas is going into the Ring of Fame on his first try, for lack of a better phrase. So with that, where does Demaryius Thomas rank among the greatest wide receivers in Broncos history? You're not going to like my answer. That's next. Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a pair of Spider Cruisers or over $15,000 in cash the weekend of July 18th, just in time for the Sturgis Bike Rally in South Dakota. That's right, your choice, cruisers or $15,000 in cash. Get finalist entries every 45 minutes from 10 a.m. to midnight during their daily cash drawing with a locked-up jackpot of $100 or more. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. Don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Spice up your next night out at Nola Jane and Lodo. Authentic Cajun cuisine like andouille sausage gumbo with dirty rice, crawfish etouffee, as well as 6 different po' boys like soft-shell crab and shrimp. Come in before or after a game at Ball Arena. Host a party or party on their rooftop deck overlooking Market Street during happy hour from 11 a.m. to 5. Plus, Nola Jane caters, delivers, and the kitchen is open late night. Make Nola Jane your new favorite spot to eat, drink, and party like it's Mardi Gras.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Black Hawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a pair of Spider Cruisers or over $15,000 in cash the weekend of July 18th, just in time for the Sturgis Bike Rally in South Dakota. That's right, your choice, cruisers or $15,000 in cash. Get finalist entries every 45 minutes from 10 a.m. to midnight during their daily cash drawing with a locked-up jackpot of $100 or more. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
And welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Nola Jane in the heart of Lodo. No one does Cajun cuisine better than Nola Jane. Go see why their award-winning menu is the best in town.
Demaryius Thomas is going to be inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame in his first year of eligibility. The ceremony will happen on October 19th. Against the Giants, which will coincide with the 10-year reunion for the Super Bowl 50 championship team that included Thomas. What are your memories of Demaryius Thomas as a player? Was there a signature play to you, a signature thing that he said in the locker room, anything like that?
Well, the first thing that I think of was a just remarkably gracious guy who always had time for you. And as someone that came in towards the end of his time in Denver, he was always a very nice gentleman that never big-timed you. I always appreciated that because that's a guy with enough cred to have done that, but it just wasn't his way. I remember very vividly watching from afar the home run catch against Pittsburgh in the playoffs. Obviously, that's one of his signature catches, one of his signature moments, but there were plenty of others. I think about the evolution of the relationship between Peyton Manning and Demaryius Thomas, which I think was probably for his career the most important pairing, and it would be for a lot of guys, right? I mean, that's what Peyton Manning can do for a lot of people. An absolutely fantastic talent who I think made the most of his abilities, leaves us with some indelible moments, but as much about the person as the player, which I think is a great legacy to have.
He was a quiet guy in that locker room, but as it was said to me by many players, he was, and I hate to date myself here, he was the E.F. Hutton of that locker room. When he talked, people listened. That is number one. The other thing is, when you look at the top 2 wide receivers for the Broncos, essentially, during the Manning era, you couldn't have had any more different personalities. And I'll use this as an example. Remember when Courtland Sutton was a rookie? Who undressed Courtland Sutton at a practice? Emmanuel Sanders.
Right.
You've proven nothing. And I liked Emmanuel a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm bringing that up is you would never see Demaryius Thomas do that.
No.
Ever. The one indelible story I have of Demaryius Thomas was this. I was there when he was drafted. But I remember in 2000, and he and I had a pretty good relationship where he and I would talk off the record. Okay? Yeah. Now that he's no longer with us, I hope I'm not sharing something that is out of school. But what he said to me was so powerful. it shook me, honestly. I have never heard an athlete say what he said, because I don't know if too many athletes would have the opportunity, unfortunately, to say what he said. In the Super Bowl year 2015, Demaryius Thomas was getting booed by the home fans. You weren't here for that,
No.
but I remember it. He had a lot of drops. Despite the Broncos being a great team, Demaryius Thomas was getting booed at times because he kept dropping the ball. So I pulled him aside and out of the locker room and into the area where they have all those vending machines with beef jerky and stuff like that. And I said, hey, bud, what is going on with – I didn't say what's going on with all the drops. I said, is there something going on why you're having this challenge that we are not aware of? And he said to me, I'm having a difficult time knowing that my mother is watching me as a free woman. Because his mother and his grandmother were both in prison for drugs. Both of them had their sentences commuted by then President Obama. His mother got out first. His grandmother got out the next year. So when I heard that, that was I can't even think of the right words.
Pretty sobering, I would imagine.
It was beyond sobering. And the funny thing is, fans would not understand that.
No.
Because he's a football player, gets paid a lot of money. He should be making those catches. Doesn't matter what his mother, not mother, whatever. He should be making catches. No, you don't understand what it's like to have a mother and a grandmother in prison. And that wore on him. And then when his mother got out, that was a big deal to him. Anyway, moving on. Where does Demaryius Thomas rank amongst the greatest wide receivers in Broncos history? I know he's only been around for 10 years, but you did cover the Chiefs for many years. So you have plenty of Broncos wide receivers.
Well, I would say he's a top 5 receiver.
Oh, without question. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any question that he's not in the top 5, but I don't think that he's at the peak.
No.
I don't think that
so you have to. Okay, I'll speak a little bit more on it then, because it's probably not a fair question to ask you because you've been here for 10 years and I've been here for 20 years.
Yeah, I don't. In the 10 years that I've been here, I haven't seen other than Demaryius and Emmanuel, I haven't seen a top 5 like performer historically, in my opinion.
Most would say, and I would agree, Rod Smith is the greatest Broncos wide receiver for this reason. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. The person said, well, he won 2 Super Bowls. I don't give a shit if he won 2 Super Bowls or not. Rod Smith was the consummate teammate, the consummate cheerleader, the consummate coach, the consummate helper, the consummate lead by example guy, and one, using your word, hellacious blocker.
Yeah.
He did everything. Was he the most talented wide receiver? No, he was not. He was not the most talented wide receiver in Broncos history. When it comes to the most talented wide receivers in Broncos history, in my opinion, in no particular order, it is Demaryius Thomas and Brandon Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Those two. So who would I put number 2 on the list? Sorry, I put Brandon Marshall. Demaryius Thomas, better speed. He could do a few more things than Brandon could. But what Brandon did well, very few better in league history. And what do I mean by that? When Brandon Marshall caught the ball, you had to bring guys off the bench to tackle him. He would literally steamroll people. I can't think of a wide receiver in the league today, maybe a DK Metcalf, with that type of size and strength, who could literally carry guys 5 yards down the field. Brandon Marshall, despite all of his off-the-field issues, and now we know why he was having all those problems. Listen, he was a tough guy to be around, tough for his teammates. and he went through team to team to team.
Yeah.
But boy, that guy got you every extra yard that you needed. That wasn't Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas would run by people. You saw with that Tim Tebow pass.
Sure.
Here's the other reason why I'm going to lean towards Brandon Marshall. Because it's not something that Brandon Marshall wouldn't say. It's something he never had to say. I asked Demaryius towards the end of his career about Peyton Manning. These are his words, not mine. His words, not mine. He said, quote, "My career would be nothing without Peyton Manning." His words, not mine. That's a direct quote. I'll never forget it. What did he do before Peyton Manning? He put up numbers, but then again, he had a crappy quarterback who had a difficult time completing a pass. The one argument you can make for Demaryius Thomas is he had a great 2015 where Peyton Manning really wasn't on the field that much. It was Brock Osweiler. It's hard not to pick Demaryius. I'd lean more towards Brandon Marshall.
And that's fine. So you can't go wrong with the top three. If that's what you're going with, that's pretty solid. And I wish I could have. I mean, obviously, I saw Brandon Marshall from afar. I've never been in a position to cover him. Yep. I understood his. Certainly, in retrospect, we understand his demons, and that's unfortunate. But it's part of who he is, and part of who he was, certainly as a player. But yeah, the love for Demaryius Thomas should be universal. Yes. I think it is universal. I think that anytime that you're talking about doing something like they're going to do with the Ring of Honor, and really fast laning him in, although I guess this is technically his first year of eligibility, right? So I'm glad that it's going to happen. It's the right thing to do, but it's the correct. Yeah, it feels right to do, and it will be a feel good moment because we should all be able to reflect positively on just the sunshine that this guy brought with him to this franchise. I mean, you're talking about a guy out of Georgia Tech who never caught like more than 20 passes in a season. I mean, he played in a triple option type of running offense at Georgia Tech. To be plucked out of there like Calvin Johnson was, same kind of guy, right? Yep. You know, Megatron, out of the same kind of offense, was just pretty remarkable. But I will say this, I'm really glad that I got to know him, at least the way that you can get to know a guy in a locker room for the couple of years that he was around. And I'm better for it. There's no question.
Here's a phrase I used to use about him all the time when people ask me, what do you think of Demaryius Thomas? And what I'm about to say is going to sound like a knock. Like I'm knocking a guy who is a football player in a room full of testosterone. Demaryius Thomas was a sweet man. Mm-hmm. That's a high compliment.
Sure is.
Not a compliment for a football player, but a compliment for a human being. Sweet, nice, kind, caring, empathetic. That's who he was. To me, he didn't have a mean streak to him, though, like a Brandon Marshall. But boy, that guy could flat out play.
Yeah. I think it's always wonderful that you can talk about human traits before you talk about competitive traits.
Correct.
That's always, and look, the competitive traits, the performance traits, the skill set, those are all very important things in the long-term discussion. But when a discussion starts with the human traits and the human goodness, you're on to something there, right? I feel that way.
And I'll throw one more thing out there. For as sweet as he was, don't ever question his toughness. If you watched the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, where, to me, the two most memorable plays of that game was the ball getting snapped over Manning's head and Manning throwing a crossing route over the middle to Demaryius, in which he got nearly decapitated, yet still made the catch, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, at that time, he had 13 catches in the Super Bowl, which at the time was an NFL record for most catches in a Super Bowl. That record, by the way, was eclipsed years later by James White, a running back from the New England Patriots. I'm sorry, I'm being technical here, although you could be technical with me too. James White had 14 catches in the Super Bowl, even more impressively as a running back. Demaryius Thomas had 13 catches. So I'll ask you, who holds the record? Demaryius Thomas with 13 catches in the Super Bowl, or James White with 14 catches in the Super Bowl in a game that went to overtime, in which he had 2 catches in overtime, and if the game doesn't go to overtime, he only would have had 12.
I don't diminish anything that White accomplished at all
either.
in any shape or fashion.
I don't either.
It's the difference between the type of routes that are being run by receivers.
That's not what I
generally.
mean. That's not what I mean. He had an overtime period to collect more catches. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but
I'm not saying
even,
it's better.
but even if they're statistically the same, I mean, I'm going to give the receiver the nod in that regard, just because of what they're asked to do and where on the field they're asked to do it.
Right.
But I mean, both of them are great accomplishments, and I hope that there's still a great deal of pride in both of those camps about what was accomplished. It's not often that you can say that you did something the best in Super Bowl history when we are now 60 years into the Super Bowl. That's a pretty remarkable thing. So we'll look forward to that ceremony greatly. Really will.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. Make it the best possible day you can.